Hello ladies and gentlemen, SeKo Starcraft back, bringing you a Silver League amateur game between my buddy Dipstick and Gryphon. Protoss down here in the bottom right. TvP, I actually like looking at some more TvP replays, particularly on the amateur side, just because I think that's where a lot of Terrans struggle. TvT is kind of a toss-up, everybody does their own things. TvZ, it's also kind of back and forth. I think that I'm actually really enjoy TvZ in the amateur side. I think Terran has some really great builds they can use. But Protoss seem to really have a number, it's a funky place for Pylon, against Terran at the amateur side, only because they have these great builds that contain the Terran, Blink builds, Oracle builds, things that really delay the Terran's ability to go out and do damage. And unless you have experience and you're willing to go in and try some funky things like Widow Mine drops or really crazy fast barracks play, it's really tough to hold off that kind of stuff here. It's nice to see that people are still comfortable doing the wall off. I generally don't go for the wall off at all anymore, specifically because you run into a lot of blink stalker play, and if you do that, they can outrange just about anything you have, and therefore they can hit down your supply depot, supply block you, and then you're just kind of toast from there. So generally don't do wall offs against Protoss. It is sometimes nice if you're worried about DT play or something of that nature, but ultimately that's where scouting comes in, and that's so important in this matchup, is to be able to know what your opponent is doing. You see a gas shortly after gateway, and we keep chrono boosting other probes. He's not saving his chrono boost for anything too funky at this point, wants to get the economy going. And we see Dipstick getting down a really fast wall off, and this is a nice thing to do. This helps ensure you don't get, something cheesy happening in your base, but a lot of times if somebody is going to go for a proxy in-base play, they're going to be sending a probe immediately at the start of the game just to make sure they can get in there. SCV is going to go for a scout. Going to be important. What I always tell people in the early games is you can scout the Protoss player a long time. It's not until the cybernetics core is finished and a few seconds later before a stalker or anything can get out to shut it down. A lot of the times Protoss are getting out that stalker now because they really want to make sure they don't have any damage from Reapers. But that means that in the early game, you can scout a long time inside the base. It looks as though Dipstick kind of wants to dart in and out, but you can just keep bouncing that SCV around with double gas. This is smart, just to send out that one Marine to check and see what's happening. So we will come in and scout. Sees the second pylon, that's actually pretty important. Sees double gas. Did he get the probe over here? Not quite yet. Probe might actually get away here. Looks like it. Probes are pretty fast. Yeah, so here the SCV comes back in. See, this is so perfect. A lot of the times a Protoss player will see that SCV leave and they think they can get greedy then. So if you come back and send that SCV in, even if it gets shot down by a stalker or it gets trapped, you want to figure out what that next tech path is. Seeing this Twilight Counselor is super important. He could cancel it potentially and move into something else. But this just tells you you've got to prepare for some sort of early game pressure. Interestingly, he has not started his blink research just yet. One Marine at the front. It's not a bad thing for right now. I don't have a problem with that. Behind this, 2 barracks and a factory, and getting his add-on as part of the wall off. Twilight Council can mean blink or it can mean DTs. It really comes down to what our Protoss player really wants to do. Looks like he wants to put something hidden down there, perhaps. Tech lab about to finish up. He's also getting a tech lab on his barracks. This is going to allow him to get out Marauders, which is super important, as well as if he wants to get out some tanks. A little bit of idle workers going on there, but not too big of a problem. Probe's going to come back in again and see if there's any type of command center. There is not. We actually see that he was boosting out the blink and his warp gate. So we've got 3 gate blink in progress here. Pylon is down. He started his warp gate really late, and that's a bit of a problem. Well, how long does blink take to do anyways? 170, 160. So yeah, it's one of those things you want to be able to use your chrono boost on one or the other. It's getting down a bunker. I encourage people to do this as well if you think you're getting pressured. I'll give one other tip, that if you are down here and you scout, it's really nice to drop that engineering bay block. It's not just that it really screws over the Protoss being able to expand. It almost always tells you for sure whether or not you're going to be attacked soon. Because if a pylon's down here, a lot of the time the unit's going to keep getting warped in down here. as opposed to in the base, so they might not even notice this engineering bay. So I love going for that block, and that means you can also throw down a turret in your mineral line if you're worried about any type of oracle play. It's so worthwhile to get this bunker too. I mean, it's costing, you know, a handful of minerals to make, but it's worth 75 to cancel later if you want. 3 barracks, so it looks like Dipstick's going to go really, really, really defensive at this point. And I don't mind that. He doesn't know for sure if there's an expansion behind this. But if you know your opponent is a Protoss and he's going to be going after you with some sort of very aggressive play, there's no problem with doing this. It's nice to start maybe a command center inside of your own base just to have that little bit of opportunity. Units-wise, pretty tied on economy right now. Siege tanks, really, really good against blink play. As long as you protect them, you can blink on top of tanks and lose the tanks. But does tons of damage. And he's got lots and lots of range, so it helps a ton. Warp gate's finished up. Blink's about to finish up. 4th gateway is done. And now we're going to start seeing this big pile of money get spent on stalkers down here. If you think blink play is coming, it's better to spread out your bunkers. Maybe have one towards the back, because you can still blink up here. And it's nice to have it in a position where it can't be hit from the low ground. You don't want your defense to get hit from the low ground. And at the same time, when they blink up, they have to start taking damage. 2 tanks, lots of units. But that's why on this side you could technically blink in and even move out of the range of some of these units. Got a forge down as well. It'd be nice if you got a +1 or something along the lines. He's going to scout for another base. Now the mothership core is down here. Lots and lots of stalkers. Censor tower. This is where you start getting a little bit overkill. This is a nice thing to do, but because it's 1 base blink and not the really high economy 2 base blink that just kind of rolls people, maybe a little bit extreme, but it does help you obviously. Not a really good blink. This is amateur stuff once again, right? So he's coming in, he's trying to do some damage. A lot of shots are hitting into the bunker. Down goes a whole pile of stalkers. And he almost... oh man. You don't want to lose the mothership core. But he's... and this is the great thing. Once you hold off a blink that well, if you do that much damage, that's everything they have. Right? He has no other stalkers left. And so very smartly, I like that Dipstick is going across the map right now. You might see a DT follow-up or something. But this is so much army compared to somebody who just lost all of their units. So this is a really good move from him. It's easy to just kind of fall back and not do anything and just kind of play it safe. But then sometimes you can give too much of an opportunity for the Protoss to get back into the game. He's going to come out because he knows his pylon's down here. Like the one Widow Mine. Widow Mines, one-shot stalkers, so they're a good thing to have as part of the mix. And he's going to move across. Kind of supply blocked, but keeping the head on those supply depots. 3 racks, and making more tanks and stuff. It's nice to be able to clear out your natural, just to put your opponent a little bit off what you're doing. If you can control this natural and they can't scout it, that means that you might be expanding, you might be attacking. It's very difficult to be able to deal with it well. And this is the best the Protoss can really do. He's on 1 base. He could probably Chrono Boost out some of his gateways, I suppose. Throwing down a bunch of Desperation Cannons, because his blink didn't work. So now he's got to try to defend against this. There's no medevac, so this is fairly important to not lose. There is a command center happening behind this. More units. He's in a great spot here. Widow Mine, unfortunately, got a little bit too far ahead. Great position for the tanks and the scan. Good stim. Kills off tons and tons of units. And down goes the mothership core. And that's essentially toast. Nice and GG. And that's the end of the game. So from an amateur side, I think this worked out really well. I mean, Dipstick would not have done this if he wasn't certain that there was blink coming. So that's why that scouting is so important. Once it's scouted and your opponent hasn't expanded, cool. Crush it, and then go across the base and attack. So across the map and attack. It's too easy to just want to sit back and not do anything. If you've got an advantage, it's always really good to go and exploit that. SeKo Starcraft, Silver League games. We'll talk with you later.